You might not believe it, but the Raiders are back on the field tomorrow, and it feels like we just watched that heartbreaking loss to the Jaguars a few days ago. Time flies fast in the NFL, and the next challenge is already here, a tough matchup against the Denver Broncos. But this time, things could be very different. The Raiders are finally getting healthy, and that might change everything. Before we jump into the latest news, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and hit that bell icon so you never miss a single Raiders update. Now, let's move on to the new news. Last week, we finally saw flashes of what this Raiders offense can really do. Getting Brock Bowers back on the field completely opened things up. The Raiders put up their highest point total of the season against the Jaguars, and honestly, they still left points out there. A missed field goal, a failed two-point conversion, an interception, and even a turnover on downs while already in field goal range. Those are missed chances, points just left sitting on the field. Yet even with all that, the offense was moving better than it has all year. Now, as the Raiders get ready for the Broncos, there's something even more encouraging: the defense is finally getting healthier too. Against Jacksonville, the defense looked out of sync. A big part of that came from players being forced to play out of position. But this week, that's starting to change. Lonnie Johnson is expected to return, and that's huge. Earlier in the year, he was projected to be the team's main post safety, a vital part of the Raiders' cover 3 scheme. Reports from camp said he was going to be a major piece of the secondary before injuries hit. With Lonnie Johnson back, Isaiah Pola-Mao can drop back into his natural box safety role, where he actually thrives. You could see flashes of that last week. He played tough, physical football and looked comfortable in that spot. That shift also lets Jeremy Chin move closer to the line and focus less on deep coverage, where he's had to stretch his game thin the past few weeks. All of these adjustments mean one thing: for the first time in a while, the Raiders' defense might finally play the way it was meant to. The offense has found life. The defense is healing. And now, with Denver coming up, this team might finally be ready to show what it's truly capable of. Stay with me, because what happens next could set the tone for the rest of the Raiders' season. It's wild when you really think about how close the Raiders have been this season. The Broncos have pulled off a bunch of tight wins, but the Raiders? They've been just a few plays away from flipping their record completely. If you look back, it's almost unbelievable. A blocked field goal against the Bears, and a failed two-point conversion against the Jaguars, just those 2 moments. If both went our way, the Raiders would be 4-4 right now, sitting in the playoff picture as the 7th seed. That's how thin the line is between winning and losing in this league. It's not some fantasy either. Against the Bears, we were in field goal range and ready to take the lead before that block. Against Jacksonville, the offense fought hard, tied the game, and just came up short on that two-point try that could have sealed it. 2 plays. 2 different outcomes. And we'd be talking about a playoff team instead of a rebuild. Now think about this: the Raiders haven't even hit their stride yet. The offense finally showed signs of life against the Jags, and the defense is starting to get healthy again. If this group stays together and finds rhythm, a late-season surge isn't impossible. The schedule ahead isn't brutal. A few good weeks could flip everything. People keep saying, the Raiders need a franchise quarterback, but let's be real, this team doesn't need to start over. They need to start finishing. Pete Carroll, for example, isn't looking to move off Geno Smith right now. He's focused on winning with what he has, and that's the mindset the Raiders have to embrace too. Forget long-term what-ifs. This team has enough talent to win now. And tomorrow against the Broncos, we'll find out if the Raiders are finally ready to turn close calls into real victories. The players are getting healthier. The pieces are starting to click. And it feels like something is finally shifting inside that locker room. Stay with me, because if the Raiders pull this off, everything changes from here. Now, one thing worth keeping an eye on is the injury report, and the good news is, most of the key Raiders are expected to suit up. Isaiah Pola-Mao practiced fully early in the week before feeling a bit of tightness later on, but all signs point to him being ready. Same with Adam Butler, who showed some flashes last game, a couple of big, disruptive plays that really stood out on tape. For Denver, things are looking different. Patrick Surtain too is officially out, and that's massive. He's one of their top defenders, and losing him opens the door for the Raiders receivers to attack the secondary in a way they couldn't before. Marvin Mims, another offensive weapon for the Broncos, is also sidelined, another quiet advantage for Las Vegas heading into this matchup. But what's really interesting came from Pete Carroll's recent press conference, where he confirmed that Dante Thornton Jr. will be active this week. That might not sound like a huge deal at first, but it actually says a lot about how this coaching staff is trying to shake things up. Remember, Thornton started the season as a promising receiver, big frame, great athleticism, tons of upside. But then everything changed. Within a few weeks, he went from starting to splitting snaps, and then suddenly to being inactive altogether. It was one of the biggest question marks early this year. Now, with Jakobi Meyers traded and the Raiders thin at receiver, Thornton's getting another chance. But here's the catch, some insiders around the team say he's still pretty far away from being game ready. That's not surprising when you think about it. His biggest struggle has been catching the ball cleanly, letting it hit his chest instead of using his hands. It's a small thing, but at this level, it makes a huge difference. He's also still developing as a route runner. Right now, he can't run the full route tree with consistency, and until that changes, it's hard to trust him as a true every-down receiver. That's why I expect the Raiders to lean heavily on 12 personnel, using 2 tight ends, and rotate that third receiver spot carefully. Thornton will get some reps, but don't be shocked if Tyler Lockett takes most of that outside work instead. It's definitely something to watch. Thornton has talent, no doubt about that. But talent alone doesn't win games. The question is, can he finally turn potential into performance when the Raiders need him the most? Stay with me, because the way this wide receiver rotation plays out could quietly shape the outcome of tomorrow's game. At this point, it's pretty clear how the Raiders plan to attack, heavy 12 personnel. That means 2 tight ends on the field most of the time, and when you've got Michael Mayer and Brock Bowers, that's a real strength. These two aren't just tight ends, they're mismatch weapons. I wouldn't be surprised if they're out there on nearly 3/4 of the offensive snaps. When the team needs that third receiver, it'll probably rotate between Jack B and maybe even using Bowers flexed out wide. It's smart football, it keeps defenses guessing and opens up the run game. And honestly, that's what the Raiders need right now, a steady ground attack to control the tempo and keep pressure off the quarterback. Now, let's talk about this matchup. The Broncos game is absolutely winnable. Some fans might say, why even bother? The season's gone, just tank for a high draft pick. But that's not how you build a winning culture. Losing on purpose doesn't create leaders, it creates bad habits. And here's the truth, the Raiders aren't drafting a quarterback next year. Not with how this front office thinks. If they end up picking near the top, they'll go for elite talent elsewhere, a dominant tackle, a game-breaking receiver, or a defensive star. So, if that's the plan, what's the point of throwing away the rest of the season? This team needs to fight for every win. Beat teams like the Broncos, the Chargers, the Chiefs, show that you belong. Even if it doesn't end in a playoff berth, it builds something far more important, belief. Imagine finishing with 6 or 7 wins instead of 2. Imagine knowing that a few missed field goals or unlucky bounces kept you from being a 9 or 10-win team. That changes everything about how you walk into next season. Look at Denver, most of their wins have been close, 1 or 2 plays going their way. That's the difference between a playoff run and a losing record. Sean Payton's team has had the ball bounce their way, the Raiders just haven't, yet. But luck doesn't last forever. Effort, discipline, and toughness do. And that's why tomorrow matters. It's not just about one game, it's about setting a tone, proving that this team isn't giving up, and showing that the Raiders still have fight left in them. Stay with me, because if the Raiders can light that spark tomorrow, we might be witnessing the start of something special. You know what's crazy? I get it, maybe it won't happen, maybe the Raiders don't make that big jump right now. But still. I just want this team to fight to win football games. That's all I want. Compete. Show some fire. Because when you build that kind of mindset, where you expect to win, it carries over. It shapes next season, it changes the locker room. Those close losses against the Bears or the Jaguars. Those are the kind of games you've got to start winning if you want to change the story of this franchise. Now let's talk about the Denver Broncos, because this is no easy matchup. Their biggest strength? No question, it's their offensive line. They might have one of the 2 or 3 best in the entire league. And that's exactly what they're going to lean on against us. Their plan is simple: come out, punch the Raiders in the mouth, and dominate up front. They're thinking, we'll run the ball right at this defensive line. We'll double Max Crosby, wear down the linebackers, and control the trenches. That's their style: physical, confident, and mean. And honestly, they've got the guys to back it up. Garrett Bowles is one of the best left tackles in the NFL. Quinn Meinerz is a powerhouse at guard. And Mike McGlinchey, say what you want, but he's a nasty run blocker. The rest of that line might not be big names, but together, they work like a machine. And it doesn't stop there. They've got 2 dangerous running backs, J.K. Dobbins and R.J. Harvey, the rookie who's starting to turn heads. I actually liked Harvey coming out of college: quick, tough, explosive. He reminds me a bit of Josh Jacobs in his early days. I won't be surprised if he takes over that backfield soon. Then there's Courtland Sutton, a solid veteran target, and Troy Franklin, who's quietly becoming a problem for defenses this season. This offense has weapons, and the Broncos truly believe Bo Nix is their guy. Their franchise quarterback. This is going to be the best version of Bo Nix we've seen yet: confident, settled, ready to prove something. But here's where it gets real: the Raiders cannot let the Broncos walk all over them again. It's not just about losing, it's about pride. I can't even remember the last time we actually beat Denver, and that alone should light a fire under this team. Now sure, it won't be easy. Their defense is no joke either. One name you better remember: Nick Bonitto. Most people outside of Denver don't even realize how good this guy is. He's one of the fastest edge rushers in football, right up there with Micah Parsons. Bonitto already gave Joe Alt serious trouble earlier this year, and now with Colton Miller out, that's a scary matchup for us. We've got Stone Forsythe and DJ Glaze stepping up, but Chip Kelly's going to have to draw up some serious help: chips, double teams, something, to slow those guys down. And don't forget Zach Allen, a monster inside who's top 3 in quarterback hits right now. So yeah, this game's going to be a battle. The Broncos are tough, but that's exactly why it's the perfect test. The Raiders have a chance to show who they are, not in words, but in how they respond. Stay with me, because what happens next could define how this team walks into the future. The Denver Broncos have a strong defense, no denying that. Their front 7 is loaded with power and speed. Drew Sanders, Alex Singleton, both solid linebackers who know how to read plays and hit hard. And I've got to give a quick shout out to Kareem Reed, not a big name yet, but this guy's story is inspiring. From college at Utah to fighting his way onto Denver's 53-man roster, that's what real hunger looks like. And then there's Caden Stearns and J.L. Skinner holding it down in the secondary: hard hitters, smart players, disciplined football. But here's where things get interesting: the Broncos secondary is banged up. Guys like Pat Surtain II and P.J. Locke have been dealing with injuries, and that opens a real window for the Raiders' offense. Running the ball might be tough against that front 7, but this is the kind of game where quick passes, timing, and creativity can make all the difference. And honestly, I just want to see this Raiders offense keep building on what we saw last week. There's something there: the chemistry, the rhythm, the belief. It's starting to click. And that starts up front. The offensive line, left guard, center, right guard, these could easily be the guys we see starting again next season. They've been getting better, play by play, drive by drive. I'm not sure Dylan Parham is the long-term answer, but when you look at the free agent market next year, there aren't many top-tier interior linemen available. So it's on these guys to prove they belong. DJ Glaze still has to show he can hold his own, but I'll be honest, I'm more confident in what I've seen from Charles Grant. The kid's got grit, he's got raw power, and he could end up being that long-term right tackle if he keeps growing. And then there's Geno Smith. Man, I've got to say, the guy has looked sharp. Last week, he played with confidence and command. The offense flowed. It was efficient. We saw a lot of quick game, short, smart passes, and it worked. That's exactly what you need when teams sit back with two safeties deep. If you can't stretch the field vertically, then take what's in front of you and let your playmakers go to work. Get the ball to Brock Bowers, Trey Tucker, and Ashton Janty, let them create. Let them turn 5-yard plays into 20-yard gains. That's how you keep defenses honest. And I'll tell you right now, unless something major happens, Geno Smith will be the Raiders' quarterback next season. He's earned it. What we need now is momentum. You don't want to crawl into the off-season, you want to walk in with confidence. Imagine Geno finishing the year hot, winning 6 or 7 games, finding rhythm, building chemistry. Then you go into the off-season, add a couple of receivers, maybe grab another playmaker in the draft, and suddenly, this offense looks dangerous. That's the goal. That's the vision. Keep improving, keep winning, keep fighting. Losing on purpose never builds a winner, but competing, even when the odds are against you, that's what changes a team's DNA. So yeah, this isn't just another game. It's a chance to prove who the Las Vegas Raiders really are, and what they're becoming.